It's the original.
Yeah. I know about some of the states. Oh, yeah. They gerrymandered.
Good evening, everyone. I'll call the financial services meeting to order this evening. Okay. Okay.
Okay, there I am, just one of me. So I'll call the meeting to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we're in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. First, I'll call for the approval of the agenda.
Promote Peter.
Moved by Councillor Boyles,
Seconded.
seconded by Councillor Parker. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded nay. Motion carried. Any errors or omissions, corrections of the minutes of April 19th, 2022? Okay, hearing none. Move on to reports. First, we have recreation. Moved by Councillor Palmer. Seconded by Councillor Wadden. Any questions or comments for the recreation report? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded nay. Motion carried. Next, we have the communications report, again for the month of April. Moved by Councillor Boyles, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Questions or comments? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had mentioned to a couple of councillors in the ward as well, is that as I'm driving to work in the mornings, the ads are on radio for the internet project. They're very well done, very professional. But there's an indication, it seems to me that there's an indication that the internet, that's the wired part of the internet, is going to be available to everybody very soon. And it's to me, it just seems it's over-promising. So you may want to have a close listen to that. I may be interpreting it incorrectly, but it just seems to me, I know that the wireless part is going to be available, but indicates to me that the wired part of the internet project is going to be available to everybody can as well soon. So I think that was.
Okay.
But they're very professionally done, very well done. But there seems to be that, and it could be my misinterpretation. I listen to it every morning carefully. So you want to have another look at the language.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Palmer.
I had the same interpretation as Larry. I heard the ads too, but it does sound like it's coming very soon. So it's something in areas, certain areas maybe should be mentioned or something like that. But it does sound like you'll be able to get it very soon.
Ward Parker.
Mine's not true too with that, because I haven't heard those ads. I'm looking under the post highlights from April 12th to May 10th. The one for the Green Hill Spring, is that number correct?
Yes.
38,000. I guess at this time I want to thank my brother, Councilor Dave Parker, and my other brother, Frank Parker, for repairing that, because it's made it obviously by that number, but I've had a lot of people comment to me that so many people in this county depend on that spring for water. I stop there every time I go by to get a drink of that water. We're brought up right next to it. And that's what's going to make me live to be 100. But it just, when I read it, I thought, well, I better ask if it's correct. First, that number, maybe they got an extra zero in there or something. But it means so much to so many people. A lot of people say, oh, you know, get the water there. They have no decent water to drink.
You have a lot of positive comments on it.
Yeah, and I stopped to get water one day and there was just a drop coming out of it. Because the pipe had broken up the bottom, it wasn't coming down, and there's a lot of disappointed people come to the spring and what are we going to do now? When you get water, it's going to buy it all, you know? So it was a fairly simple fix, but needed to be done. So anyway, I'm just glad that it did get done and glad that people appreciate it.
Yes, it was wildly, it just blew up online. I think it was a,
You go there in the breaker, it's a hard thing to do.
yes, it would be everything to do. I missed that. It was amazing how many positive comments. I too saw that online. Any other questions or comments on the communications report for the month of April? Okay, so moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded nay. Motion carried. Next, we have accounts paid for the month of April 2022.
That's a little.
Okay, it's been moved by Counselor Butler, seconded by Deputy Warden Murray. Any questions or comments on the accounts payable month of April? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded nay. Motion carried. Next, we have the deed transfer tax report for the month of April 2022. This is for information purposes only, so we will not have a mover and seconder to vote on it, but if anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. And again, we have another for information purposes only, taxes receivable report. This is something that the audit committee felt like it's important to move forward to council, that we would have a monthly report of kind of where we're standing with our receivables for our taxes. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Oh, Councilor David Parker.
And I appreciate that the interim levy for this year is included in these totals. I believe last year we taxed something in the range of 17 million for residential and commercial. We still have 2.2, or maybe it's 18. But at any rate, it's more than 10% of our taxes are still receivable. Now, there's some of them who struggle to pay their taxes, but there's also some of them that I believe are deliberately not paying very, very minimal amount. See further on in the agenda here, we have an opportunity to address that. So it is a significant issue, and you don't want to understand that, not keep it on. Thank you.
Thank you. Warden Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That 2.261 or whatever million, that's over multiple years. Is it like that wouldn't all be from the previous year, or is it? It's cumulative, so some of it would. How much, do we have any idea how much of that would be from last year only? Would half it be from last year, or more than half, less than half?
It's probably close to 50. Current.
50%. Yeah, so.
Give or take.
Half it's current, half it's old. Okay, just wanted to report that, because I didn't think it was all from last year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on. Next, we have the Municipal Alcohol Project Committee and Councilor Lund.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick report on the running. We haven't been able to meet regularly through COVID, but I just want to bring everyone up to date on what we have been able to do. The latest version of our municipal harm reduction checklist, the major planning events, was reviewed by all committee members, and we sent out copies to various event organizers for the feedback. It's a half-page size book list, and we hope for an early fall distribution. So these organizers will have this checklist consistent in planning, handling events of all sizes on a go-forward basis. So far, the feedback we received has been very favorable, and I'm continuing to meet through teams, but hopefully we'll be returning to in-person meetings soon.
Okay, any questions or comments for Councilor Watt concerning the MAP committee? Okay, hearing none. Thank you for that report. And also the NSFM report as well, Councilor Watt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to give a quick report of the recently held conference at the White Point Beach Resort in the region of Queens Municipality from May 4th to the 6th. The event started with a very rousing presentation by a local county resident, properly pronounces her name properly, Louis Delany.
Yeah.
Formerly from South Africa, but he calls Picto Home. He was entitled Unleashing Greatness, Embracing a Distinction. And in all my years of attending the conferences, his keynote address stands out as one of the very best. He actually had us dancing and clapping and singing through the whole presentation. We heard from the Honorable John Lower, and one of the highlights from him was announcing at lunch that Premier Houston had reconsidered his decision of Bill 149 that was being withdrawn. This is a property tax on non-residents in Nova Scotia. Needless to say, this was very welcome news. We can only hope that this will show the province how important it is to work with municipalities when dealing with issues that can really impact us. We were to reach some municipal success stories. The landfill at New Forks, Cumberland County, which is owned jointly by the towns of Oxford, Amherst, and Cumberland County. The Community Climate Action Plan by the town of Glasgow. Rachel Mitchell, she's a climate change and sustainability manager, and she shows a great deal of passion for her position, and she's certainly shown how much she enjoys her work. We had another presentation by Deidre Cassie, who is an educational wellness consultant and a psychotherapist. She spoke to the strategies for developing mutual understanding with others and connected with yourself. We heard from the Cape Breton Senator Whitney Peer, MLA Henry Coons, who is the NDP municipal critic. I attended the workshop on to tweet or not to tweet, and it's very interesting as to how many conversations are being had through social media, but the downside of how many mistakes or misjudgments in posting are being made by not just the municipal councillors, but all elected officials. We had an excellent presentation on diversity and inclusivity in municipalities, and we had a great group of presenters there. Councillor Andrew Murray of the town of Antigonish, Councillor Mary Desmond for the District of Guysborough, and Ms. Kenesha Gordon, Kings County Diversity and Inclusion Specialist. Recognizing diversity and supporting inclusiveness are important for all levels of government, but municipalities are directly engaged in the literal building of accessible and welcoming communities. Our conference was brought to a close with a discussion on the NSFM organizational change. I think overall these changes are being welcomed by our membership as something we need to do. The only municipality who seems opposed to moving this along is East Hants. And I know our own warden, he also spoke to concerns he has with these changes. We are trying to work through all their concerns, as we do want this to be a good step in the right direction for everyone. On that note, I remind everyone that the bylaw change notification went out to all members on Thursday, May 12th by email, and I urge everyone to read through these proposed changes and please do not hesitate to contact us if you know or see something you're concerned about or just don't know what it means. There will be a very important meeting of our membership on June the 9th from 3 to 5 p.m. via video conferencing, where we will be discussing these very important changes. And then just on a lighter note, Thursday evening during a conference at the White Point, a casino night was held by the Liverpool Fire Department, and they provided us with a great night of entertainment, and at the same time, they made over $1,200 for the fundraiser. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Warden, for your report. Warden Parker, you want to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, along with Councillor Warren, attended that session down along our South Shore. It was a very good conference. It was a good mix of topics, and it's well organized. Everything went well. Went very well at the end. I won the prize and so that was the best part. I get a 2-night stay at my Point Beach Lodge, so that made it worthwhile going. But I did want to remark on the what took place, and Councillor Warden referred to it. So the minister spoke in the morning about 10:30, whatever, after Mr. Downey, and that he said it was a hard act to follow. But, you know, there was no doubt there was a lot of pressure put on him at that session that, to do with this non-resident taxation issue. What it showed me more than any meeting I've been at up to this time is that when the municipalities spoke up, most of them as individual municipalities, but spoke up and wrote letters and did stuff that morning, I think helped to turn the switch. So by dinner time, the announcement was made. I think there was people on the phone pretty quickly after that session when, especially Deputy Minister LaFleche, I think the message got through to the provincial government very quickly that you've got 48 municipalities here, about ready to attack you. You know, we've got to think hard about what we're doing here. And so I give the provincial government full credit for realizing that they were on the wrong track and accepting that and moving on. Sometimes that was the right thing to do at that occasion, but it really showed me that the municipalities, when they came together forcefully that morning, and there was a fair number of people spoke. That was almost perhaps one or two other issues, but that was almost the only issue the minister heard in the question period, other than the organized question. So I think it shows the power that the municipalities have if they want to get together. And NSFM was a little slow out of the gate, I think. The individual municipalities, particularly Chester, guys, and a few others led the way. We had our letter in along with the rest of them, but I think it was important to note the strength in the combined units. Province will listen, but you have to keep banging on the door for them. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Dan. Thank you, Woodbury.
Madam Chair, just Debbie on the east end, is there big issues there that concern us? Something overcome.
So then the big issues, I feel that should have been a strategic plan done first, and we're trying to tell them that the time to do the strategic planning probably after the changes and then go forward with how we're organized after that. They weren't happy with was talking of moving them from Victor County, Cumberland, and Colchester County, and moving them in with the Valley area, and they were opposed to that. They would have liked to go with Halifax, but then they would have lost Halifax because Halifax will have two representatives, and they may not get someone on the board for themselves. So anyways, they're concerned with that, and we're concerned with the rural split up the caucuses. They do have, they're not very happy with it, I'll be honest there, but we're hoping that we can work through it with them. And we are trying to move them back. As far as I know now, at the last meeting, we decided to keep them in with Colchester County. See if that's one thing that will keep them satisfied. So, but we're working through, she's written a letter to all the councils asking or showing how they're upset with it and how to get our feelings on it. See, there's more concerns out there. So, hopefully we'll be.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hearing no other questions or comments, we'll move along. Next, we have funding requests for municipal service grants. So we have 3 districts tonight. The first district is District 1. There is one that is highlighted in yellow there, and I believe that's one that would be for your council. Yeah.
But it's coming from the district.
It's coming from District 1. And see that it does not have its, is that flagged because there's no financial statements with that?
Before council comment at this meeting.
Okay. Your meeting's 4 May, okay. So, Council Butler?
I would like to, Madam Chair, and to remove the acceptance of this report.
Okay, so we have a mover, we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Councilor Turner. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. And I should mention that the annual municipal service grant for District 1 was $23,540, and that does include that $500 for the Thor Register work. It doesn't? Okay. All right, we'll move on to District 3, municipal service grants. Meeting last Monday night. Okay, moved by Councilor Palmer, seconded by Warden Parker. Any questions or comments? Okay, great meeting. As you can see, we had a total of $18,390 requests. Seeing no questions or comments, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, and next we have District 9. Councilor Wills, can we move that?
So move the report.
Okay, who moved? Who's seconder? Okay, seconded by Councillor Dewar. Questions or comments? And the total here is $18,800. Councillor Boyles, you go ahead.
I was just going to say that on that is the one for the backpack program for 800, but if the council decides to get it, total we would be given.
Okay. So it's 18,000, sorry. I misspoke there, it's 18,000, not 18,800. Go ahead, Warden Parker.
My question, my question was just on what Council Boyle mentioned about the backpack program, because we had a lot of discussion about holding that back for ratepayers meeting. If council hasn't made a decision yet whether to go ahead with that or not, so I guess this is in there. Council decided not to go ahead. Their ratepayers meeting, not in council. That was my concern.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, so next we're going to move on to number 6. It is budget considerations. So 6A, additional $50,000 for municipal service grants equalization fund. And Councillor Parker, you would ask for this to be in the agenda, so I'll let you speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been alluding to this now for several months. Main rationale is that the cost of building materials has gone up very significantly. Cost of fuel and everything else has gone up also. And quite frankly, many districts have to spread it very, very thin. Simply not enough money to go around. And I stand to be corrected on this, but Lakewood was first implemented about 40 years ago. It was initially at 250,000. At some point, got back to 200. And at some point a little later, put back to 250. I think it's the 250 I've been on down. So our rationale is simply to try to put a little bit of money in municipal service grants and help out, allow more of those groups to now these are generally fairly small projects, not top large projects. Even a small project today can run you $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 quite easily. And I'm also asking that this be done on the reverse program that we had for the last 50,000 put in. Rationale there is quite simply that those districts along the shore are growing very quickly, much more quickly than those of us who represent interior districts. So even with the reverse program in place, the district on the shore will still grow much more quickly than interior districts. So my motion, I guess, I ask for a seconder, is to, for the 22-23 budget, increase the municipal service equalization fund from 250,000 to 300,000 with the first implementation, we'll call it, for being applied to that 50,000. I ask for a seconder.
Second for that motion.
I'll say.
Okay, Councillor Boyles, Councillor Boyles. Would anyone like to speak on the municipal service grant proposed by Councillor Parker? Warden Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sort of of two minds on this. I don't have any disagreement at all with the price has gone up a lot. Build it in yourself, it's in kind of that cost almost twice as much, and parking costs a lot more. And so from that point of view, to do the same amount we were doing last year, 5 years ago, even more so, it's not possible with the same funds. On the other hand, we're in a tight budget situation. We had requests way over, or council grants way over top of what we were able to give. And, it's going to be difficult to maintain our tax rate and also give up on money. So that's why I say I'm on two lines. I know it's needed, but I also know that, and in some areas, I think it's gotten to the point where, temporary cemeteries, with the building.
Sorry, I'm not sure which one to change.
Siri had comments too as well.
But that's where I'm at, I've got, you know, I see where, Brother Dave's reasoning is from, but I also see that, you know, we want to try and keep our tax rate, down as low as we can, and, it's one, but I know what I'm starting to say before Siri came on. The, cemeteries in a lot of areas now, I look at them and sometimes before cemeteries than anything else. And in some areas, maybe, or not some areas, but it's almost becoming relied on from council to do the work that used to be done by the community. Now, maybe there's no people left communities to do it, but it's that money comes from council now. That's almost a given. That money for the cemeteries comes from council. So, as long as we're doing that, or maybe for churches and all kinds of other stuff, then the bill will go up, because we're now the expected funder for some of those categories. So, that's just some opinions. I can't say whether I'm going to vote for or against it. Like I say, I'm going to wait and see what other people have to say.
Anybody else like to comment? Deputy Workberry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My opinion is pretty much the same for ordinance. We definitely need that increase, I think, but I don't think we can do it this year, and we should put it off, talk about it in December again. Just, we have requested over $1 million for council grants, and it kind of went back there. Let's see, got some more money in the district this year. I know it's needed, but put it off. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Palmer?
No, I was just gonna say, maybe we could look at it at the budget time, and if the money is there, then we would approve it, but to approve it here tonight, I don't know what our budget is. Probably. Not the present procedure. I think same as the Deputy Warden said, you know, it's needed, but we gotta look at our budget before we go forward. So,
Go ahead, Brian.
Councillor Parker had asked us for advice on how to advance this, so we said put it on the agenda tonight, because at budget night, we can't have $50,000 expenditure kind of floated at us. So from our standpoint, from staff standpoint, if we had direction that there's a willingness to at least consider it, then as we finalize the estimates over the next 2 weeks, we can include it, and then the night of budget, when you see the total picture, it may be something that you have to cut or debate further, I think. So that was part of our rationale for suggesting that it go here.
Thank you for that perspective. Councilor Lynn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do agree that probably that should be increased. However, I do have concerns with their own budget, and I know what we went to last year, trying to maintain our tax rate. So I'm not really comfortable going ahead and putting, like, approving this tonight, or at least supporting this tonight. Also not too clear on this reverse order. I know we do it for $50,000 of money. I'd like to know what the impact is on our districts before doing it, because I know Pictou Landing is, they're one of the lower end communities too, but doing an inverse order does affect them. And I think mostly for me, it's the criteria for these grants. It seems to be pretty sketchy. Sometimes we're not really sure, or we're not really clear on what this municipal service grant money is for. So I'd rather see us work to do some tightening up of how we should be using that municipal service grant money before we go ahead and increase it. So for those reasons, I would support this today.
It seems to me that there's a willingness to maybe, this is something that we definitely talked about in January, when we meet with the council for our council planning, or April, whenever we can meet next year, whatever it happens to be. So it seems to me that that's regardless if we move forward this or not. I think that's something that should be on the agenda there for me here tonight. Any other questions or comments? Parker?
I think maybe the advice from our CAO is good to, you know, they need to know if there's a willingness, if we don't have to put a tax rate up, is there a willingness to go ahead with this 50,000? So they can work it into the budget. I think that's where the direction's needed, providing we can hold the tax rate and with 50 in, but not if we have to raise the tax rate. That's what I think they need to know, is there willingness around the table to go ahead with this increase on our municipal service grants if they can do it with their tax.
Anyone else like to speak or make a motion? I guess we had a motion, sorry.
On the motion.
Madam Chair. Sorry.
I'm fine with making it conditional. I'm just trying to advance this process. It's past time ready to deal with this. We can delay it for another year. In the world, you have to seriously look at, I mean, 250,000 in 1982 or whatever it was, very, very different now than it is 2020. We have many groups that are struggling. Just trying to move this process along. Now, I've been a motion that is additional on not increasing our tax rate. If it's pushing that tax rate up, then we throw out or delay it for another year. I will pull that motion and that amendment if it's already clear.
Accept that as well. Something that you had mentioned, Councilor Wong, was to have kind of a understanding what the equalization would look like. Yes, and so I think that's something important for us to have the information on as well. So would administration be able to offer that information as well at budget time? Thank you. Councilor Thompson.
Just on this, I don't have the luxury of some other districts, my district, of providing cemeteries with $3,000-5,000 to fix their cemeteries up. One of the, and we're going to talk about it later tonight, we distributed the districts back in 2016. Essentially, District 11 is 2 districts. And from every part of my district, I get complaints that they're not getting enough. Populated area in Plymouth receives a smaller amount of my budget than remote and rural areas of the district. So, and because I don't have tidewater, I don't have homes going up on the coast, and I don't have that high assessment in District 11. Every time a home is built in secure, and it's $1 million house, every time one of those homes is built, part of my assessment or my lot impacts inversely on how much I get. So that's the rationale behind the whole notion of equalization. It just doesn't raises everybody to an equal footing. I guess that's the concept of it is. So I'm okay with if go for another budget year and we take a pass on it this year, but I think we should look at it in the budget. But it's a touchy issue for the district of mine I represent, because I have 8 community centers, 4 fire departments, and I get cemeteries everywhere. Most I can get a cemetery is $400. So I'm slicing up that pie. Everybody's getting a little piece of it, just enough to make them come back to the ratepayers meeting. That's about it, right? So it's, and in some districts, it's a lot less of a tug where the money goes because I have some organizations to feed into. So understand that it's not, every district's not the same, so but I understand that it's basically two districts I have. North, not one. The old District 14 and the old District 11. So it's not as simple as there's no kind of.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Thompson. Councilor Wetton.
I just have to clarify this motion we're passing now, sitting doing it in inverse order, or would that be voted for the motion as well until we get the information from staff? And that be the end.
I guess it's included in the motion now. Yeah, it is included in the motion now. Go ahead, Councilor Parker, you're the mover.
I have no problem with removing that from the motion until we have further information on it.
Okay.
It is something that Andy made the point. I call them, well, they use our bad water. Coastal districts are growing much, much faster. Both in terms of the number of homes and the value of them. Than the interior district. And this problem is continuing, the spread is continuing. I see no reason why it won't continue. So I think we do have to have that discussion. We have to have that debate of how we make this more of an equalization type program. Those who have the most get the most. Set up. That keeps getting, that gap keeps getting wider over a long ways from the equalization program. But I have no problem with drawing that portion of the motion of the Secretary agrees. So we have additional information. That's voting on whether or not additional, let me say the motion there, a little up in $1,000. So that Karen and the other people working on the budget have some guidance. But the understanding that we have to start cutting, that's probably for purpose of law. You.
And Councilor Boyle, you were the secondary, you're okay with that? Okay. So that'll be your motion to take out the equalization part. Any more questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay.
Nay.
Motion carried. Okay, next we'll have 6B. It's budget consideration, fire department access to Canada Community Building Fund.
I think the memo that was circulated covers off most of the issues. It's really a decision, the first decision that has to be made is should fire departments have access or any not-for-profit group that has an eligible category does meet the definition that you could grant access to the, what was the gas tanks that it's now the Canada Community Building Fund. So if you had a group of their interest for infrastructure could qualify, right? So probably they're doing something they could qualify as well. So it's really the decision of whether, first decision is whether or not they should qualify, and then if the answer is yes, they should, then I think the recommendation of staff would be that those projects would have to be evaluated against all other projects. It wouldn't, I don't think you would segregate a certain amount of money for a particular function. I think it would be best if they to even install other priorities. So, so the, I guess the basic question is, should the groups have access to, some municipalities have done it on projects. It's not widely done, but there have been a few examples where groups have done it. But that's really the decision. So that's more philosophical. Should they have access?
So that's what we're looking for tonight, is just not necessarily fire department, just any non-for-profit group.
Right, we have 2 requests from fire departments, but it's broader than, or could be broader than that, and maybe it's just fire departments that considerations given to.
Right, we'll open it up for discussion. First, we have Warden Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not in favor of opening this up to fire departments. We use that money for a lot of major projects that we have going, particularly on water and sewer, and that demand is going to stop. We've, you know, done a lot, but there's still a lot to do, and there's other projects, you know, large projects in the county, including our high-speed internet that we use some on, but the fire departments have funding, you know, from various other sources, particularly the ability to tax. Now they have a 50-50 draw, and they can draw from our municipal service grants if they get approved. So they have other sources of funding, and I think to open it up, not just the fire departments, but there are all kinds of other things that eventually will catch on to this, will only diminish our ability to do other major projects in the county. So I think, well, you know, the provincial federal governments, they're not giving us more money at the time. They're just saying, you know, you can give it, you have permission now to give it there if you want to. But it does diminish what we do in other areas at the same time. It's not more money. It's just the ability to do that. So I would not be in favor of extending it to fire departments or to other nonprofit groups. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Warden Parker. Anyone else like to comment? Go ahead, Councilor Warden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see this as a piece of enabling legislation that if we want to help these groups, we have the ability to do that. So I don't like to shut the door and say, you know, we're not going to help them. There is something in there that we can use. I think part of the problem I see too is that these requests competing with our infrastructure programs. And again, I think back to when I tried to have a sidewalk based in Little Harbor, about a $200,000 project, and couldn't go anywhere because, of course, a lot of your infrastructure projects are going to take residents over something small like that. So I think there's a problem with how we do our projects. And I think maybe we should have the large ones in one category and smaller projects in the other. And something like this could help fire departments, for example, if they needed some funding. I'll use Victor Landing as an example. Their roof project is something like $220,000 to do the roof. Not easily raised with 50/50s and area rate. They're at the top of their area right now, 19.5 cents. So it doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for coming back to the community to get that money to do those necessary renovations. Excuse me, I know the fire department down there, excuse me, worked for like 2 years on various grants trying to get the money to help them with this project. And again, that's a lot of work for a group of volunteers. So I think there's there is some credibility in looking at ways we can help. And I think Department would be able to look at our own structure of how we do our projects. I guess other than that, I know that, excuse me, our Canada Community Building Fund, that increased or doubled this year. That doubled this year. That's basically the old gas tax. So that was.
It was only a one-time.
One-time doubling, but to look at the service agreement, that's opened up again, and if it's not negotiated or signed this year, there's a strong possibility to be doubled again. So there has been some extra money put into by the government. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, I think we should seriously use this as an enabling legislation and not start what the possibilities.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Levin. Anyone else? Councilor David Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my concern is if we open it up to fire departments or other non-for-profit, I guess that would include upper rinks for sure, some curling rinks, whatever, to the neighborhood halls. There could be very significant demand competing for us with a fixed number of dollars. If we look at the hierarchy of the ability to fund, fire departments tend to be very near the top. Yes, they have large needs. Yes, fire trucks cost a lot of money. $750,000 for a large fully equipped one. And yes, they have to do some financial planning to be able to do that. I could see in the case where there's a affected fire, for example, we would want to step in with perhaps money from that fund. But I'm concerned that this is as a cemetery, once you open that tap, it's awful hard to get it turned off again. Fire departments have effectively the ability to tax. That's why they're able to get such favorable interest rates and then do go to more money. 50/50 ticket program started in Pelham County. It's been a real movement, not more so than others, but the Western Fire Department, I think, is up around $25,000 to $30,000 per year. It's coming through that, but then through that, it's running the check report. And they certainly have more support and more ability to raise funds in the community than many of our other not-for-profit organizations. I think we have to demonstrate the wisdom of Solomon here, or rush off and say, well, the Fed's during an election campaign, I know, thought it was a good idea. Promise, during an election campaign, thought it was a good idea. And they left the niceties of it to the municipalities, but figure is there merit for helping not-for-profits with a very large or special project? The answer is probably yes. But that would be, to me, an exception. We open this, just say, yeah, come ahead and buy, we're going to approve this, and this, or we say we're going to take a lump sum or some percentage. Well, it all you do is stop the people who stand in line. I'm next. We have to be very careful there. Have to apply the wisdom of Solomon. Say, what does this really mean 5 and 10 years down the road? Will this impinge upon the municipality's ability to build sidewalks, to build water and sewer infrastructure? You have to be very careful there. Or we rush out and make a rash decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Parker. Councilor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just be brief because most of the things that I plan to say already been said. And I'm of two minds as well on this matter. But I think there's consideration should be made for Councilor Watt's suggestion that there's a categorization of projects that perhaps you could set aside a bucket of money for one particular type of project. So if it's a types of projects that are out there, so the water, sewer, bucket of money for this, a bucket of money for that. That's one consideration that can be made, because categorization is something that's worth looking at. But it's also, as Councilor Parker had talked about, I think that projects should be based on their merit. And I think that this council is wise enough and not political enough to make proper judgments on projects based on merit. So I think that has to be taken into consideration as well. So those particular things I would look at is the categorization of buckets of money for each type of project. And bring these projects to council. Council should have enough wisdom and enough experience around this table now to make good judgments on it. So those are the 2 points I'd like to make. Thank you.
Thanks, Council Turner. Council Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also, I see this as another download by the federal government. This year program was there for the municipalities to replace or build their infrastructure. Now here they're adding a whole bunch of other not-for-profit organizations or large whoever to have access, saying, oh, you can have access, well, let council approve it. So they're putting the blame on us if we don't do it. I've been in the process of looking for funding from the federal government through other grant programs and things like that. There's nothing out there. They don't, and that's what they refer you to, is the municipality. They say, go to your municipality, you have the option of doing that. The municipality supports us now. We're looking for the federal government to support us. And I know the Hectorines in the same category, they get 50,000 from the federal government through such a program that they really shouldn't probably, but they get 50,000. That's all that's out there. At one time, you used to be able to get a third. Now that 1/3 is gone. So when you get a $600,000 project, you're losing a third of that project. That's a big loss. How do these not-for-profit organizations come up with the funding? I disagree with the government saying, oh, you can use your gas tax for these not-for-profit organizations. No, it should be used for the municipality for the infrastructure. That's what I think.
Okay, thank you, Council Palmer. Anyone else? So do you need direction on this this evening or budgetary reasons or?
Yeah, if there isn't clear direction, then we can include these projects in for consideration. So it's, if there isn't direction, then we have a direction.
Board Record.
If I was administration, I'd have to hear this direction right now. So I'll try to bring it to a head by making a motion that we do not consider fire departments or other nonprofits for this. I don't know the correct name of the fund, but it used to be the ASAC fund, but we keep it for municipal infrastructure only. Make that a motion, ask for a second.
Okay. Motion here, Councilor Elliott. Seconded by Councilor Elliott. Okay, any other questions or comments concerning the access to the Canada Community Building Fund? Councilor Warren.
I will not be supporting this motion. I think it's being made too quickly. That we should look at what we're trying to do and not sign into a shut. This is not mandatory to give to these fire departments and other not-for-profits. It's enabling us to do that. So I think there's a huge difference between being mandated and enabling. We're not looking at it through that lens. We're looking at it as being forced to do something. I don't think that's the right attitude at all. So for that reason, I won't be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll call for the vote then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay.
Nay.
2 nays. Motion carried. Okay, we're going to move on to number 7, Audit Committee Tax Collection Policy. So our Audit Committee has been meeting more regularly, and also I have the pleasure of sitting on that committee as well, and trying to come up with some to bring forward to committee some policy that can help enable our tax collection here as a municipality. In your package, you had here a draft policy I guess, that was drafted through committee and also administration. Is there any questions or comments? And I'd like to open up the floor. Go ahead, Gordon Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't find it right now, but I know I did read this, read through it, and it was something that I brought up last year and some other council did as well, I believe. And it was stated that because last year was different and the due date was on the 30th of the month rather than the 15th. I believe this year it's on the 15th of June for this first billing and the 15th of October for the second billing, so that it shouldn't happen. But I did read in here somewhere where, you know, interest starts the next day. And that's the complaints I had, that, you know, there's no forgiveness at all for being a day or two late. Sometimes it's mail, sometimes it's some emergency come up or whatever, but, you know, I mentioned at that time that perhaps we could have a, you know, if it's the 15th of the month, could we have a forgiveness period, you know, of a week or something, so that we don't get these, it say here that if you're paying, you know, through your bank or through automatic payment somehow, you know, it's up to you to make sure you pay 3 or 4 days early so that it gets into our bank in time. I guess I would prefer to see us have a little lead time so we don't run into those complaints, you know, I don't think it would hurt our tax collection. These people that have every intention of paying their taxes, pay interest because you're 1 day late or 2 days late. One person said to me, well, it's worse sending out the bills for the interest if mine came in 2 days late. You know, is that a wise expenditure of money, I guess, but that's just from the complaints that I heard last year, and I'm not sure. I thought the road would be fine because it's the 15th, we don't have that problem, I'm into the month type of thing. But it still seems to be saying in there somewhere that, you know, if you don't pay it on the 15th, we don't have the money to have the 15% bill every 16th. I can't find that right now because it's long. But I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, that's fine. If they're not going to charge interest for a week, then that's fine.
So it starts accruing the day after. It's not applied until the first of the month.
So my payment were to arrive on the 18th. Would I get a bill for, you know, 27 cents or $1.10 or something?
No.
You wouldn't. Okay, that's the point.
If you pay on the first, you're gonna pay interest back to the 15th.
Yeah, that's fine, but that is 2 weeks forgiveness. They're saying that if you get it, we're not going to charge you the interest. If that's the case, then we're all right.
It's accrued.
Accruing, but yeah, I can see it accruing because you're still gonna, you gotta pay it if you don't pay it. But that, it doesn't mean by then your own fault. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Gordon. Any other questions or comments concerning the tax policy? Councilor Wendell.
Just a comment on this stuff from the audit committee's perspective. I know just want to get something in place that we can follow along and know this, the way our tax collection works and where we're at any given time. It's a policy we can fine tune it and update it as we see fit. So I think this is a good start for us. Thank you.
I agree. I think the word expectation is that everybody has an expectation of what's happening, both us as councilors and also our residents. Councilor Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my first concern is, will our tax collection policy be clear on our website? Clear to somebody that this is what happens if you don't pay. We have a policy against it going to a tax sale. Generally, it's bad for people who don't try at all. Is it fair, is it equitable, and is it clear? So that people are aware that, you know, sometimes people may be forced to choose whether or not to put oil in the tank in October or whether or not to pay their tax bill. That may happen in October 2022, about $3 a liter, 50 maybe. We're heading into some very, very, very difficult times, in my opinion, all caused by oil prices. And we need to have a policy that's clear and fair enforcement. The ones that bother me, they're not Mr. and Mrs. Jones and, one that I know with serious illness, stop work, don't have any money. And they ask for an extension, and they're trying sincerely, and they have a good record in the past. Those ones don't bother me, but that's exactly what should be allowed in some leeway. It's the ones, and I witnessed some on that list, who are in fact businesses, successful businesses. And it had 20, 30 more thousands of dollars owing to the county. They weren't even trying. Those are the ones that we need to put squeeze on. Policy has to be firm, it has to be fair, has to be clearly explained on our website, it has to be equitable. Yeah, just as soon as you get it down, there'll be exceptions. So it has to be flexible. So make it firm, fair, flexible, equitable, well explained. It's not on the E's and the F's. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Palmer.
I thought it was very clear. But on the weekend, and I thought it was a good thing, so I'll make a motion that we accept the policy.
Been moved by Councilor Palmer. Do we have a seconder? Okay, thank you, Councilor Watton. All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next we're moving on to the boundary review process. This takes place every 8 years. Yes, yeah. So it's that time again. Slide here, their package as well.
Yeah, so this is in the package. So I won't go through it necessarily line by line, but there is a requirement every 8 years in the act that council confirm or alter the number in the boundaries of polling districts and the number of councillors. All councils must conduct a study into the reasonableness and fairness of the number of boundaries of polling districts, the number of councillors before making an application to the board. The board has recommended a two-step process. First is to determine the desired number of councillors, and then the second step is the distribution of the voters to meet the terms of the board. So the board must consider several factors in determining the number of boundaries of polling districts, the electors, voting parity, population density, communities of interest, and the geographic size. So the board basically says that the governance style is a question which should not be answered by council until adequate public consultation has occurred respecting the expectations of its constituents. So basically what the board outlines is that you conduct your process with the public, and really when you go to the public, one of the aspects of your presentation can be status quo is an option, but the council doesn't make a formal decision that status quo is the way we're going to go, because the public have a right to provide input into what the council would look like. And there have been municipalities in the past that have gone against that process, and the board hasn't seen kindly with the end results that didn't work that. So the form and extent of the public consultation is within council's discretion. The consultation should be of a type and degree which allows members of the public an opportunity to express their views on the size of council and location boundaries, and allow the public the opportunity to provide its input. Is a key component of the decision-making process leading to the eventual application to the board. Voter parity. So the board has determined that as part of the boundary review, The target for districts is plus or minus 10% of the average number of electors. Any variance in excess of that must be justified in writing. And while the board will permit variances up to 25% plus or minus, the outer limits of this range should only apply in exceptional cases. So in the past, we have had some districts that would be over 10%, like District 12, sometimes over. But when you look at the voters, you had Valley View Villa and the Riverview guest home there, who have eligible voters. So we've in the past made the argument that from a municipal standpoint, while there may be 100 voters there, from a municipality standpoint, we're really only servicing the property, right? That's one big thing. So, and the board has accepted those type arguments. Another one is in District 2 with Victor Lake and First Nations. They're included in the municipal numbers, even though they have self-government as well. So, so it can affect the numbers type thing. So in 2014, we held 5 meetings. Were held for the consultation. We did one at Tony River, Eureka, Little Harbor, West River, and one here. The presentation itself just provided an overview of the boundary review process, review of the current structure of the warden system, a review of the potential governance system, mayor versus warden system, council committee structure, voter parity, and the public consultation and input. We did at each of these sessions have a questionnaire which posed its opinion on the adequacy of the council size. So should it be increased, status quo, or decreased? As well, we asked the question about the mayor and warden system, and whether or not there was the public thought that was a good idea or a bad idea. And we also sought opinions on what the people present at the meeting considered their community of interest. So if we get into a situation where we were having to redraw boundary lines, we had some feedback from people to say, well, no, I really associate with this general community, and so we wouldn't divide it in half. Type thing. Really the point of that. So so really the boundary review process, what options does council want to present or consider? The process set up by the board does not anticipate council making that decision prior to going to the public consultation, but they do indicate that really whatever you go out with, you should have one option. Things status quo can be one, and then it could be, the other question could be, do you believe that the council size should be altered, right, up or down, would be the second option. And does the council want to present mayor versus warden system for public discussion? Kind of the timeline, initiate the review now in May, develop and communicate the program to the public really over June, July, and August. In August, we developed the presentation for the public sessions, public participation in the month of September, four in-person sessions, and potentially one virtual session where people that did not attend one of the in-person. During the month of October, review the public consultation comments and refine the strategy. council make a preliminary decision. And a public presentation of the decision if necessary. And it's not necessary to go back to the public after first, unless there was going to be something substantial. You can always go back, and then council's formal decision in November, and the final report and application be written in November with submission to the board in December. And as I mentioned, potential public consultation for public meetings, 2 in the east, 2 in the west, and host a virtual session to allow for consultation with those unable to attend.
Just to be clear, we're just making a recommendation to the UARB.
Correct. At the end of the day, there's a hearing held by the board, which we present our application and defend what is submitted to them. But the board, at the end of the day, the board will make the decision on what the council size will be for the next election.
Okay, Councilor Dewar.
Thank you very much. It's just wondering if within any cases, the last time we gave up 2 councillors, and that's about all that happened. It was about all of it, there wasn't much changes in the towns at all. And because it was all kind of at the same time, there seems to be a lot going on. They didn't lose like we lost. And I really, really lost all my faith in the utility board this last number of years. Because there are a lot of things that we really needed help with, and Andy Commission needed help with. But the egg in their face was East River water, the same dam in English County. See, after a little while, people forget about all that stuff, or they want to. But how in the world can half a dozen people make all these decisions? And it's kind of tired. There's nobody to go to. You can't vote them in, you can't vote them out. Look at the billions and billions and billions the oil companies are making right now. And the oil and gas is going up tonight. We should talk about it more. Gas, diesel, and home heating. And they're charging pretty well. And okay, right now, it'd be $2,000 to go to the bank. For the winter, how many people in your area spend $2,000 to go to the bank? It's $255 or something for diesel. And these fellows are just, all opens up every other night, then again Friday or Thursday night. That way, I know I'm only one person, but there's a pile of people really struggling with the whole rate and get that. And provincial governments haven't opened their mouth. I don't know, but they got them so shut and saying that right. There's nothing to help or even talk about what's going on right there. And it's because of the URB and those type of people that really shouldn't have the control they got. They should be voted in and voted out. One fellow on that I'd like to see voted in, right? I guess he's going to retire anyway, I'll show, but my man inside. But anyway, that's just my opinion, and I know that's not worth anything, but we've been screwed by the utility board very much since 20 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Dewar. Councilor Boyles.
I was just wondering, Brian, do you think that they want to cut more this time, or do you think we can chance to keep them much here?
I don't know what the flavor around the board would be. I think if you do your public consultation and there's the strong argument or strong feedback from your public that 12 is an appropriate number, then that's what you argue before the board, and you hope that they accept that. That's all you can do. You can just put the argument before the board or the application before the board that we've consulted with our public, and the public says 12 is the appropriate number.
So how does it work, like, last time, took from 14 down to 12, you did that yourselves just to beat them to the punch, was it, or?
Yeah, so that was at the time, study 8 years ago, there were a lot of rural municipalities that were being cut in size. So the thought was that we go in with a reduction, we would have a better chance of the board accepting that we voluntarily had done it. So that was the rationale behind that application. And the board did accept the reduction from 14 to 12. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyles. Councillor David Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I certainly agree with many of the comments that Councilor Dewar made about the power of that board. In many areas of our lives, they have stated, demonstrated, might be a better word, a bias towards fewer and fewer elected representatives. That was the number of MLAs in the last election went up, I think 3 or 4. But if you're in a rural municipality in particular, shrink. For the first time in a very long time, we will be able to maintain that our population is growing. That's a strong argument for maintaining it at 12. How far do you shrink? How many members how many constituents do you want our members to represent? And at some point, you lose that personal contact. And my district is, I think, the second or third largest after maybe Andy's and Dawn's. I'm in it today. I had a couple of constituents I was to see. I went to Lansdowne Station, Lovitz, then I went to Lower Mount Tom. By the time I got home, I put about 140 kilometers by truck. You know, it's not cheap. It's not cheap to represent for all of this. If you make the member bigger, it's more expensive to stay in touch with your constituents. That's an argument, in my opinion, for keeping it safe. But I believe they have a bias towards shrinking them. I think there was a proposal on the table, was there not, to CBRN to go down to three districts and maybe elect 2 or 3 members for each district. There's considerable pushback on that. That rural areas would not be as well represented as they are now. There's all kinds of considerations here. We definitely have to go through a process. We definitely have to hear from our people. And we have to prepare to defend whatever decision we make in front of that board. There's not a doubt in my mind that the board has, I think they're being pushed by the Department of Municipal Affairs, bias towards ever shrinking the number of councillors. They also have a bias towards elected mayors. And my counter argument of that is always, those degrees is example I know of, the late Mayor Rob Ford of Toronto. He was way over here and his council was way over there. Didn't get along at all. That could happen with an elected mayor. It's happened more recently in this province. Not as egregious, but certainly noticeable. I believe the warden system has worked well for this county. The warden happens to be my brother, but after what he did tonight, I don't know. But he or she has to maintain the confidence of council. If you're elected mayor, you don't need any confidence of council. You can tell them to go out saying, we're doing this, this, and this. That's a very dangerous situation in my mind. So, but I believe they do have a bias pushed by the Department of Municipal Affairs to go to elected mayors. The other big downside of elected mayor for me is that once a person is mayor, it becomes much more difficult to bump them out of there. You got to have enough time and dollars to raise your profile of the whole county. You got to see people in the whole county. That's much harder to do, especially if they have a well-known mayor. And the mayor gets all kinds of opportunities to pull strings to get publicity. A challenger does not have. So I think the system we have has served as well. I'm talking about the warden system. I'm not in favor of shrinking anymore. I think there's an advantage in democracy when the people know their counselor by name. And not everyone knows me, not everyone knows Tish, not everyone knows Randy, et cetera, et cetera. But many of them do, and they recognize us, we've been around a long time, we're all the citizens, et cetera, et cetera. But that interaction we've been had, so we call you by name, will slowly slip away as you go to bigger districts, fewer counselors. So let's get the process going. I'm not arguing for the status quo, but let's hear from the people.
Thank you, Councilor Cracker. Warden Cracker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is all about the process, the process started going through, as much as most of us maybe, or a lot of us don't think much of the UARD. We're not going to be able to change that tonight. That's a provincial appointed body that's given a tremendous amount of power. I agree with Jeff, on that for a non-elected body. And it's often really convenient so the provincial government, blame things on them and say, well, they're upset. But I guess my concern is when we go to the public meetings, we're not to go out there with a preconceived idea of what we want. But so we have 12 councillors now, and whether that's enough or too many, public is generally told over and over in one way or another that you're overrepresented. You've got too many representation, too much representation. That only generally applies to municipal publics. It doesn't apply to provincial officials. But they were overrepresented. The city of Toronto only has this many for this huge population. As we know, County is a lot different than the city of Toronto. I heard Councilor Thompson say some of the concerns in his area being too large. Probably larger than the city of Toronto in some ways, but in general, I'm afraid we go to the public without any education as to why 8 might not be enough, 6. The general public is oftentimes fed the line that, we're wasting money on all these politicians. We have less politicians, we save an awful lot of money. As we all know, that's not very true. If you cut our attendance in half or more, it'd be a pretty small percentage of budget that we cut. But it's often sold. So if you go to a meeting, you say, well, yeah, why you got to need 12 people, on the show, and 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 on the show. And if you're talking to people that you informed as to what the challenges are of doing it with even 12, I don't think that's what it's about. We're going to public, we ask them how many councils you think we should have without any education on what we're doing and why we need as many as we do. In fact, if I heard it right, we don't go out and say that we think 12 would be the right number, do we, Brian, or do we? Or do we just say how many do you think we should have? That's the question through you, Madam Chair, that I've answered. Do we say that we're in support of 12? I thought I heard it that we're not allowed to say how many.
You're not making a formal decision that 12 is the number, but you could say that status quo is does work for the municipality. So, and
we can say that much.
And you can say this is why it works, right? So you can provide some education to your current structure, and that your current structure does work. I think one of the arguments has always been reduction is save money.
Yeah.
The elected budget is 1% of our overall budget, and then if you cut it from 12 to 6, your budget's still going to be 1%.
Yeah.
You won't save.
And the general, when I see in the media, sometimes the general misconception is that if you just cut some politicians, you'd have all kinds of money to do your other project.
Yeah.
So it's hard to change that, especially when you got certain bodies out there almost pushing that. And they do seem to have been lately in a mood to punish municipalities if they don't think you did just what they want, Richmond, you got from 12 to 6, I think.
Yeah, some of the decisions that are coming from the board is if you don't follow the process,
They're gonna catch you hard.
they will hit you with almost a hammer. Or if you go out and you consult with your public and the public says, and which was the case in Richmond. Richmond went out to the public said 12 is too many, we would like 8. And the council went against that, and then the board came back and said, well, you went against the public, you're now set at 5. Right, but that's the power of the board, and right or wrong, but their message was, and it's happened with a few other municipalities, you've gone out, you've consulted, but you're not enacting what the public is telling you. So we can't support your application for status quo or whatever it would be. But that.
They wanted to punish you, I think, at that point. So the only thing I'm trying to say, Madam Chair, is that we should at least be able to educate the public a little on, okay, if we agree around the table that we want to stay with 12 and give some reason as to why that is to the public, especially considering, districts that are very large and very rural, and then my brother David needs to know our council and everything. We need to give the public some information, because the automatic explanation is just, on the mayor warden system, a lot of the provinces go on to mayors. And there's probably arguments to be made either way. So sitting here at board now, I'm not going to defend the warden system over the mayor system, but there is a push. I think the provincial government would like to see all mayors eventually. I think I'm not sure what their reasoning is, but there seems to be a push from somewhere to go with that system, and so I'll leave that alone. That's enough for me tonight.
Okay, Deputy Warden Murray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're getting the cart ahead of the horse. I think there's a process that we've got to go through. And I'm so moved that we instruct staff to get that process to whatever has to be done till September, and we'll debate it after the public tells us.
Okay, we have a second for that. Okay, it's been seconded by Councillor Warden. Go ahead, Councillor Butler. We'll wrap this up.
Just one little comment, Madam Chair. Hopefully the public meetings will be held in different locations than the last time, just so that other parts of the municipality are represented.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Councillor Butler. Okay, everyone, we're ready for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded nay. Motion carried. Okay, nomination Victor County Wren vacancy. Deputy Warden Murray, you asked to put this on the agenda.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yes, I'd like to step off this committee. I just don't feel that it's the right cut for me. I tried it, and it's not my cup of tea, so I think somebody else might be able to do a better job. So, somebody else is appointed.
Okay. All right, thank you for bringing them forward. Deputy Warden, is there anybody who would be interested in sitting as representation of the municipality on that committee? What are the meetings?
The next meeting will be September. We usually try to meet every 3 to 4 times a year, and then for requests months. That hasn't been going either. So, but there's I think the annual meeting is in June. Or something like that. The LOC meeting will be in September. It's not a busy committee, but it's not my part, I guess.
Not feeling. Deputy Warden, Warden Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was on the committee for a long time of the predecessor and municipal economic working group. I think it's still very important, and I understand the difficulties that they're having with some of that on our deputy warden. But economic development in this county is terribly important. And it can't be done by individual municipalities. It just doesn't cross the boundaries. New industry in Glasgow or Pictou helps everybody. New industry in the county helps everybody. So they have hired a new CEO to try and put things on a little different track. Not that the other person wasn't doing a good job, but put them on a different track. And because I served there before, I would do it. And I think it's that important, but I'm not gonna stand in the way of anybody else wanting to do that. And Councilor Turner has served on there for a while as well. And most of the mayors are no longer on it. We were careful the first time to put all the mayors on and so it's working. But most of them, I think Mayor Dixon, if I was the only one left on it, is that right? Yeah. So I'm more than willing to do it. That's not a problem. But I want to make sure that nobody else feels that, you know, I'm not taking it from them. I want to let somebody else do it.
Okay, is there anyone that would like to go on that? The warden has offered if anyone won't stand in your way.
No, if you're gonna take it, that's fine.
Okay, we have a motion. Should be recommendation to council for that. Go ahead, Deputy Warden Murray.
And so moved in that the Warden Parker be appointed to the LOC.
Well, second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any questions or comments concerning that nomination? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Last on the agenda, we have emergency resolutions, unanimous consent required. Is there any emergency resolutions this evening? Go ahead, Warden Parker.
This is something we rarely do, I know, but I'm gonna explain it to council why I think it's an emergency. I had a chance to talk to our MP on the weekend at our tree planting out in Meadowville. And so he asked me if we could bring it up to council. That was on Saturday, so it was too late to get it on the agenda. But it has to do with the boundaries for our federal constituents. Talk about our own boundaries here tonight. And I'm sure many of you are aware what the proposal is, which is for Pickett County to be combined with some of East Hand, some of Halifax County, just a straight slice through the middle of the province. Eliminating Antigonish, which would then go with Cape Breton. So I'm sure that somebody in Ottawa sitting down looking at this and having to get an even distribution thinks that makes sense. But he certainly expressed to me that he's not in favor of it, but sorry for him, again, just like council, you know, speaking up on our own behalf. But there's very limited time here to deal with this. There will be a public meeting, but the only public meeting is in Antigonish. No public meeting in Pickett County to deal with this. And if you look at it and say, well, we're still there, but you talk about community of interest. We have a lot more community of interest with Antigonish County than we do with Preston and East Hants and or in Halifax County. So if we don't get our word in there now, I think the 28th of this month is the final opportunity to speak up on it. I believe that's what he told me. So I guess what I would like to do under this emergency code resolutions is to make a motion that we send a letter to whoever's in charge of this reorganization, very strongly objecting to the new boundaries. And I was also told by our MP that this will lessen Victor County's voice in the federal constituency. Will be a lower percentage than what we are now because of what's being added. Victor County's population will put us at a lower percentage, so we won't be as strong a voice in what we call Central Nova, whatever it is, you know, in that. But I would like to see us send that letter.
Well, first thing we have to discuss is that we have unanimous consent, so we can discuss that, okay? Character from the horse there. Yeah, so I guess the first thing is that, is it agreed that this is discussed this evening?
Agreed.
Anyone against? Okay, so you had placed a motion forward that,
If we send a letter to the people in charge, I don't know the body, but whoever's doing in charge of the reorganization, there is a place to send the letter to, on behalf of our municipality, strongly objecting to the proposed new boundaries of the Central Nova before our critical seat in Pickett County.
okay, do you have a second on that? Okay, Councillor Elliott. Anyone like to discuss this? Go ahead, Councillor Parker.
My biggest concern on the whole meeting in Antigonish is not part of this riding anymore. But that's just a minor point. We're concerned, we'll get to Antigonish. they're including Lance, Elmsdale, with Enfield, part of the Hanson County corridor, the Halifax County corridor. That's I think it's the second fastest growing district in the province, only Hanson West is growing faster. And yeah, we will very quickly be overwhelmed. The percentage of voters that will be in Hanson County, even though we're growing a hell of a lot slower there. And they are different than us. They are trade council. They're urban, semi-urban, compared to us. We have some urban people too, though all our districts considered rural. It's just a general weakening of the effect of rural Nova Scotians, lumping us in with a large section of semi-urban people. And will fundamentally change the nature of their seat. That's a real concern to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Watt.
Just want to make sure that this letter, I think it's very important to send it, but will it highlight what changes we're going to see because of this move, how it will affect us? Make sure that is highlighted there in the letter, because I don't want just a letter to go out that we're going to disagree with to see as to why we are concerned and the impact it would have on us.
Yeah, not just that we're against it, and make sure it's detailed and explaining why. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Call the Proper Service Committee meeting to order. First, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in the Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I have approval of the agenda. By Councillor Carter, second by Councillor Turner. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Now my nay. Motion carried. Hearing errors, and omissions or corrections to the minutes of April 19th, 2022. Seeing none. On. Next up is the reports. First is the building inspector's report.
So moved.
By Councillor McNeil. Second by Councillor Dave Parker. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now my name. Motion carried. Next is the bylaw dog control. So that. Moved by
Councillor Turner, really.
No.
Councillor Wallace. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councillor Dave Parker. Questions? Seeing any? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Now my nay. Motion carried. Next is the wards report. Moved by Councillor Dorr,
Seconded.
second by Councillor McKeel. Questions from the board? Seeing none. Board wants a question resolved. Go ahead.
There's a couple of errors there. The tree planting subcommittee, not the tree planting. And down on the bottom line where it says sign checks and attended council and PTSA, that sign checks for both the council and shared services bi-weekly. I'll not fault the person that did it for me because this is
Just gonna say, where's the news that did the report?
yeah, this is new. Our 42-year veteran is not here anymore. 44 years.
The short.
Yeah. Right, but I did want to mention one thing, Mr. Chair. So we had our shared services meeting this morning and here in this room and the budget was passed. And so there are some increases, I think it's about 6% increases. Tremendous increase in, as everybody said here tonight, fuel costs. But that's having an effect on picking up the garbage and recycling too, of course. And it's Also, the cost of recycling, in terms of, we ship ours to Colchester County. And they've greatly increased, almost 50% cost of doing that this year. But we have, Mr. Cameron said, we have no other options. There's no other place to ship right now. We don't have the facility. So really, we're waiting for this, EPR for PPP to come in. That will then mean that all of our recycling will go to a provincial site somewhere or possibly even out of province. So we just have to swallow it right now because there isn't any other option. But overall, I think with both the ERIC system and the landfill, they tried hard to keep the cost increases, down as much as they can. I'm satisfied that we have a good budget coming out of there for 22, 23.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Count by nay. Motion carried. Next is minimum standards, year-round occupancy, travel trailers. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. I've been receiving complaints and concerns about individuals living in RVs and travel trailers, and they're making them permanent residents year-round within the district, and there's more than probably a half dozen right now. These travel trailers or RVs, they do not add to the property values, so the municipality is missing out on revenue it needs to operate, and it's unfair to those who are paying. So aside from being unsightly, it's not being able to comply with the standards required for permanent homes, such as having a proper sewer or a septic hookup. And some are parked along lakes and rivers, and they're posing environmental concerns because we don't know what they're doing with their waste. And there's also fear with an increase in the garbage with no place to store it, because all that's there is the travel trailer or the RV. And it's attracting wildlife within the community. So my intention is not to take away housing, but to make it fair for those who have great respect for their property and concerns within their community of how it looks. And I'm bringing this forward because I'm looking for a solution, and I want to make a motion to have the matter looked into for policy standards. And I'm looking for someone to second this for me.
I'll second it.
Questions?
It's Logan here, if I could weigh in.
Yes, go ahead, Logan.
Hi, thank you. And thank you for that, Councillor Elliott. I wanted to point out that a number of municipalities and planning districts look at these types of processes in their land use planning strategies as well. Eastern District Planning Commission is one example of that. So I would suggest that that could be, depending on how quickly you're looking for the solution, Councillor Elliott, it could be something that could fit well within our land use planning work. So I just offer that if there's a quicker solution that could later be incorporated into the land use planning, that would potentially be appropriate as well. Just wanted to offer that as a comment.
Thanks, Logan. Time frame is not an issue with me. I just want the matter looked into so that doesn't happen widespread within in the districts throughout the municipality of Victor County. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
I believe there is a problem. We call them travel trailers or RVs, or in some cases they're mobile homes, older mobile homes. They're clearly substandard. Problem arises when in fact people that are living in these are at the very bottom of our socioeconomic scale. They don't have a lot of good options. If there's one step out from the tent, homelessness we call them. I agree that we should have standards to protect particularly property values. But we have to also allow enough flexibility, I guess, so that you don't wind up putting somebody up the cold on the week before Christmas because their RV's not up to standard. And that can happen. That's when these people, these poor people, that's when they tend to move into these things because, well, it's too cold to live in a tent anymore. But I agree it's a problem. I agree we need to have Logan take a look at it. There need to be standards. Maybe there needs to be, just a clear definition of those that are not to be year-round homes. I know this last year, I know a couple of people that turned these into shelters. They wouldn't pass muster. They don't have a septic system, they don't have running water. They kept them warm and dry. It's a difficult issue, no two ways around it.
Anybody else? Sir, Nelson?
I should also add that if the RVs or travel trailers are moving from location to location, that's not one of the concerns. Or if they're parked in a campground that's by a lake or a river, that's not a concern. It's the ones that are parked on a bought lot that are made permanent housing on a property with no septic, no well, and that's their means. Then some of them might have a temporary power hookup, some of them might not have anything, but living in them year round, that's my concern.
So this is something that we'll look at during the middle of the planning strategy, is that what you?
Yes, what Logan stated is perfectly fine.
So knowing that much, right? Probably. Should we get a motion to,
No, I think the motion is in order. It's direction to look at and develop the policy standards.
Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
On account of my name. Motion carried. Next is the noise nuisance bylaw, Ward Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I brought this up at our planning session in March, April, whatever it was, our yearly planning session, and so I know that we did a sort of a straw poll that day, and there was a great support for a noise bylaw. There hasn't been in the past year for people that have been here for a lot longer than me. This is not ever got part of the discussion. So my question, why am I bringing it forward tonight, then if we know there's sort of on the taste for it? Currently, it's because people have asked me to. So I want to bring it here, public session, so that they know we at least have had the discussion. We have our private meeting, planning session, nobody knows what we're talking about. So, and there is a problem, and I'm not sure how to handle it. I know it's probably still getting worse, not better than my district. I now have two separate ones, which I want to mention here tonight, and one relates to what Councilor Elliott was talking about, or is tied in with that type of situation. But the first one is on McNair's Drive, which, for those of you who don't know, connects Elmer Road to the Lock River Loop. It's only probably less than a kilometer. It's just to jump down that road to get the shortcut almost down the other road. So there's a fair number of nice homes. They're modest homes, mostly mini homes, a few bungalows. And at the bottom end is a business. Business is a service center, I guess, for big trucks. Some would call it something different than that. But it is a young fellow's way trying to make a living, but there's a great disagreement between those who live very close, can't get a night's sleep, and business running to 11, 12, 1, 2, and 1. You know what the noise trucks make when they back up? Beep, beep, beep. And it's just a lot of noise to lay down, which is what I've been told by the residents. I haven't gone down at that time of night much. But we've had meetings here across the hall here with the different groups, and that's generally how we've handled noise complaints in our municipality. Bring together the warden, the counselor of the area, and the two sides, and see if we can figure something out. In most cases, it's worked. In most cases, in some cases, it's like a municipal thing, like in the Thornton area, where it's only for a night now and then, or a couple of nights during the summer or whatever, or the exhibition, there's a lot of noise, but it's only for a short period of time. This is night after night, we get to be month after month. And these people are really hollering for help. And yet, we don't have anything to help. We've tried some things. We brought the speed on the road down to 50 kilometers from 60, which allowed us to put the no engine brake sign out. That cuts some noise, but it's really the noise all night. And, I don't care who it is, if you're not getting a good night's sleep, they're not operating the next day. So here's a problem we have in our municipality. I've had to say to them, there's not much I can do. We don't have a noise bylaw, we don't have a nuisance bylaw. The other one that just came up last week and it's tied in with what Councillor Elliott was talking about, is a young man living in a travel trailer, with no power, no sewer, no hookups. And to get power, he has batteries, but he runs the generator all night. To charge those batteries out for the next day. So if you're living right across the road from them and you have to try and get some sleep, and we don't have any protection for those people. You know, we can try and bring them together, but in this case, it's already been said, I mean, that isn't work. Most times, by the time this is elevated to a certain level, neighbors against neighbors isn't going very good. We have been able to solve some in the past, but so we don't have any tools in this municipality. I know I talked to some people at the NSFM conference from Colchester. They do have a nuisance bylaw, not a noise bylaw, a nuisance bylaw. The big reason for not having a noise bylaw here in the past has been that it would put some fairly significant businesses out of business. And it had to be a choice between economy and noise. But we have no way to, we can't say to somebody, don't work after 10 o'clock at night. Those trucks are there, they need to be rolling the next morning, so he's gonna work to try and get them rolling. That's part of the business, but the two don't fit together. Our minimum planning, will help prevent some of these things maybe in the future. But I suspect a case like this are gonna be grandfathered. And so that's not gonna help those people any. So what I'm asking tonight is not to pass a noise bylaw tonight or nuisance bylaw. I'm asking staff, this committee to direct staff to look at what is being done in other municipalities across this province in terms of either noise bylaw or nuisance bylaw, to see, and then take it back to this committee to see if there's anything that we think might work. I know just to pass the street noise bylaw, it's not going to go anywhere. But I would like to look and see if there's, this can happen in any one of our districts at any time. We don't have a tool to deal with it now. So that's my request tonight, Chair. Do you want me to make a motion to that effect, or?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion then that we direct staff to investigate other municipalities in Nova Scotia in terms of a noise bylaw or nuisance bylaw. If there's something that might work in this county that's better than what we have now.
Okay, so there's second.
I'll second it.
Second by Councillor Turner. Question? I have a question. Just if we do come up with a nuisance bylaw, would they not be grandfathered in also, like a business? It's pretty hard to stop a business from operating after the fact, right?
Yeah, nuisance bylaws tend to put limits on what is constituted as a nuisance. So businesses operating typically are given a fixed exemption. So as long as they're a lawful business operating consistent with how a business of that nature would typically operate, then it would be exempt. So.
Mr. Chair, we also have to look, I'm trying to solve an issue at hand, maybe we can't, but we also have to know this could happen to anybody at any time.
Yeah.
So if we have something that at least would prevent it from happening again.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you, but I was just asking the question.
Yeah, perhaps grandfather is what you would have, but maybe not.
Grandfathering is a planning term, not necessarily a bylaw term.
Okay.
Right, so there is a difference. You can't impose new planning standards on existing use, right? But nuisance bylaws are typically not planning documents.
Okay, thank you.
So there is a difference.
Seeing no others, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Count by nay. Motion carried. Next is a PACE program update. Councilor Boyles.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've been getting some calls on the PACE program. People want to get applications to sign up for it. And so I don't even know where it's at right now, but I called Brian the other day and he said, you know, sort of, for the council, I'll come up with, we'll put some dollars into it. So I just wanted to find out from Brian what's going on, where do you think it's going, so I have something to tell them anyway.
Yeah, so that's really the next step as part of council budget deliberations. So it'll have to be a funding envelope put forward to move it forward, right? So council will have to decide it's something we don't do. Once that's funded, then the rest of it will fall into place. Like applications are pretty much developed and probably just needs to be rewrite, tweaked type thing. But the next step is really as part of council's overall budget to fund the program.
So when does that get put to the council, or what we're, you know, how do we get it on? I guess what we're going to do one way or the other.
So it will come as part of the budget deliberations later this month. I think because council approved the bylaw and stuff back in February.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any none? Okay, is there any community announcements? Councilor McKee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just want to congratulate the team of volunteers. Not last Saturday, the Saturday before, there was about 20 of them, and they went to 2 beaches in District 3, down Caribou Provincial Park, and also Waterside Beach, and they collected, there's about 20 people, and they collected 230 kilograms of trash on the beach, and provincially there was about 7,700 kilograms of about 300 participants of garbage off our beaches in Nova Scotia. So I think the MRF, from what I understand, is going to be planned next. The chair for our local area is in my district, and we're really moving ahead. So I just want to congratulate all volunteers that are trying to make our county beautiful. And I look at the trash every morning on the way to work, and it's astounding how much is on the side of the roads. And I think, you know, moving forward, we're going to have to do something about it because it's to the point where it's embarrassing. So something to think about. There's community announcement and food for thought.
Good job there. District 3. Hey, Gordon Parker.
I have something else I want to say, but I want to comment on what the councilor just said, that I have been talking to Deborah Cyril at the Lansdale site, and she is going to come here soon as we can find a meeting for her to talk to us about the lettering initiatives in the province and e-lettering or whatever. And I think we do need to take this seriously, come up with a strategy for this county, whether it's alone or working with the other municipalities, what we're going to do about lettering in this county. She's had all the meetings, she'll be able to give us a lot of information. I think she's going to talk about DPR for PPP at the same time, because that's on the coming down the track too, and people are going to be asking council, what's this mean to me in terms of stuff I put at the end of the road. It's going to change it, so, but that's not to do with the lettering, but so I just wanted to let everybody know that she will be coming within a month or so, whatever, so we can set up a date for her. And then I think it's our responsibility after that, some ways to deal with this problem. It is a serious problem, I agree with that. But I wanted to take this opportunity to thank or congratulate all of those who took part in the pre-planning ceremony on Saturday in Bentonville, including the chair of our climate change committee, Councilor Boyles, And the co-chairs, I guess it is, of our tree planting subcommittee, Ed and Diane Kennedy. So with everybody involved, it was an excellent day. We had a lot of students out, we had a lot of adults. We planted 2,500 trees, I guess, got planted somewhere. We had about, I think, 500 left when we finished the field. But we had some very good foresters, so they were with us to show us, on spacing and on how to plant them and all of that. And it'll be interesting in 10 or 15 years to drive into the field and see what they look like. So again, it was a good job of everybody, and it will suck some paraffin out of the air. We had some figures sent to us today by Kurt Schmidt, another forester, on exactly what those numbers are. They're too confusing for me to understand, so I won't try to tell you what they are. But I thank God for the good weather we had, but I don't thank him for the blackflies. It was absolutely terrible. I still got the marks to show it, but anyway, they carried some people away. Luckily, I made enough, so I stayed down and around. But I think it was a good effort by the Climate Change Committee to show people that we can do something. Not just a little old us, we can't do anything with this. We can do something, and we did. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Bowles.
No, I just mentioned we had our meeting at the, for the district at the hall there on Hillside, and we had people from this place come and give us a presentation and stuff like that, and it was really good. But one of the questions was asked was, trying to get people to clean up and use, excuse me, that's what I call it. Anyway, landfill. And but when you go over there, it's so everywhere. There's trash, it just seems like in the woods and the thing. But I went over today to try to drop something off. I never seen it so clean. So they done a really good job. Whoever did it, it looks good today.
Okay. Councilor Dave Parker.
Thank you. To Peter's point, the summer students just came on. That's basically the first task, is to clean up around the site. So that's why it looks so good today. I want to point out that black flies pollinate blueberries. They're one of God's creatures, and I want to thank the warden and the deputy warden for doing their part to make sure that they're not on the endangered list.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none? Is there any emergency resolutions? Councilor Dowling, sorry.
Thanks. With the tourist season fast approaching, I have a major problem that is probably going to affect us all. And I have conversations, I have emails, I've reached everywhere I possibly can concerning the Pictou County sign and the Colchester County line coming in. I have reached out to Wren, and they have no resources to replace this sign. They have no funds for the past RDA. They were never part of the current model, and I floated it by Deans. They currently have no resources available. And I think it's really important that we get this sign back up, and I'm not looking for an answer tonight, but I do want people to know that the old sign is laying on the ground out there, and I'm not sure if Public Works will put it up or if the municipality will put it up, since there's no funding for a new sign. But I feel a great need to have that sign put up to know that we are in Pictou County.
Okay. This is an emergency resolution.
Oh, we have to have,
And I'm willing to bring it to council on an agenda if no one wants to speak about it or have any concern about it tonight. But I just wanted to put it out there. It's been missing since a year.
It's something you can add to the next agenda.
Okay.
Councilor Dave Parker.
Yeah, it's not an emergency resolution tonight, but it's almost like notice of. The information I've been reading is that oil prices will hit between, and I'm talking about diesel fuel and home oil, between $4 and $5 a liter this fall. And we need, as politicians, we need to try to get ahead of this. It will swamp a lot of our seniors, a lot of our people living in over home. So I'll put that on the agenda that sometime in the future, for someone will have to deal with this. Thank you.
Okay, so I need a motion to go in camera. Is that Council One?
So, yeah, there's nowhere on there now for items to be brought to future meetings, so we can move that in the agendas. Yeah, okay, well, this is just an announcement, I guess, it said, the province is currently working with the Service Exchange and the Municipal Government Act review. And in this agenda, is starting a committee to work with the province, and they're going to be taking us up on that offer, which is really important. So the committee has put together a survey, and they're coming out to all members of council, and they're asking us to have the survey done as a council, as a group, because they don't want individual councilors responding. They want it to come from the council itself, and to have it back to the committee by June 13th. So if we could have that on the agenda for the next council meeting, we can have a chance to look at the review and decide how to fill it out. Because this is really important information for part of this community service.
Councilor Elliott,
I just want to tell them to see it, to review it before we come in to discuss it.
so in future reference, yes, you just add it to the agenda. Right, just call in and put it on the agenda or email to Brian saying, please put this item on the agenda. We remove that, part off.
Just prior, just like we do now before Friday or whatever. Okay.
Just on that. Geez, if I could.
Yeah.
I think the whole point we got rid of this was not have a conversation about it. So that we move our council meetings along and that this was for emergencies only. And I think that we agreed that we would, if somebody wanted to have something on the agenda, that they would call, they would put it on. And when it was ready to be put on and have a discussion, because if not, we have, this drags out.
It was brought up at our seven meeting.
Call.
Huh?
Who do you call? I never call. We got no Carolyn, we got no Johnny, or.
Right now, we're
Councilor Thompson, just do this for now.
But it's, when you weren't there, I called it in the back.
Either way, Friday.
8 o'clock.
Just on the additions to the next meetings, whatever, if, just as a courtesy to councilors, if you have background information, please share it instead of just putting, well, just any one of these things, you just, if you put 3 words on an agenda, I don't know what the focus is of that particular item. So it's important to have the background information.
That was also discussed in Saturday sessions. Okay. Okay, so future, no, now.
You can change.
emergencies.
Huh? We have announcements that are. Okay. Do we have a motion to go in camera?
Okay.
Okay.